Thanks so much for coming on. I'm so happy you're here. So I got Bart with me. We're going over basically the shipper aspect of cargo theft for Fraud Girl Friday and getting into basically more of like educational pieces on what is A, going on in the industry, and B, what are solutions that are out there to help protect yourself. So real fast, do quick elevator pitch on yourself, company, what you guys do, and then we'll jump into all the fun things.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the time. I appreciate being on.
Of course.
Look forward to the conversation, Danielle. So my name is Bart Schulman. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for Vectura. Vectura Risk Management is a cargo security company. We offer layers of security for cargo.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, we have a software platform that sits at the bottom of that pyramid of things that we do.
Yeah.
And that software platform collects all the data. We have a verification piece where we integrate with people like Verified Carrier, bring their data in so we understand, because most freight is stolen before it's picked up, if you really think about it.
Right.
So getting the carrier, the driver correct and make sure that's all in line. Then the next step is we utilize GPS devices. Doesn't matter whose or what you use. We integrate with most, if not all of them. If we don't, we'll integrate within 24 hours to anyone you have.
Oh, wow.
And then what we do is then monitor that shipment. We have monitoring teams here in the U.S. in Chicago and in Serbia, and they're looking for exceptions. So our software is really exception based.
Okay.
So if you think of things like red zones, light alerts, all those things.
Yeah.
A big problem in the industry today is when you think about things like alerts, people are like, oh, that's great. You get alerts.
Right.
And then they get all the alerts.
And then
they're like, I have no idea what to do with these alerts.
Right. Yeah.
So what we do is triage and manage those alerts. For example, if you have a light alert and a truck's traveling at 70 miles an hour, it's likely there's not really a problem with the truck.
Right.
So we can negate that alert, it'll still be in our system. You'll see it, all the other things, and we'll learn from it. Like, oh, we need to alert people that when they have a translucent top, they need to let us know so we can figure out how to manage the light better.
Yeah.
Then if something does occur, we have an incident, somebody stops in a red zone and we have a light alert or a door open event, then we will summon police to the scene to help recover or stop the process, whatever case may be. Time's of the essence.
Yes.
So our ability to monitor that and really jump on it right away within, hopefully within a couple of minutes. And then our network of law enforcement that we utilize to respond is key as well.
Yeah.
If I'm just a trucking company or a carrier or a broker or whatever you want to choose, and I call the police and say, I think my truck's being stolen, they're going to say, we're going to email you a form.
Right.
You fill that form out. We're bypassing that process, getting law enforcement involved right away, giving them tracking information, giving them pictures of the truck, pictures of the driver, so they're able to recover.
Yeah.
So that's really the secret sauce. And on top of that, if you want to go further layers, again, we have physical cargo escorts that will drive behind the vehicles. They're trained in how to perform their tasks. We monitor them as well. So we know where they are. We know what's going on. They're constantly in contact with our control tower. So at that point, we have physical eyes on it. We have monitoring on it. So we've got a really, really closed solution. So that's, again, not everybody wants to pay for all that. And I get that. So that's why we have different layers. So depending on your risk is what you pick as far as what you're going to do.
I was supposed to say risk wise, it's funny because you'll see like these articles on, wherever, like on Fox News, CNN or whatever, talking about like these multi-million-dollar things that get stolen. And you're like, why do you not have the right measurements in place to protect yourself? And to me, that goes back to maybe not even cost. I think it goes back to education.
Agreed.
And they don't understand what the market's like out there. You're kind of in your own silo. A lot of times shippers are like that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's funny, I was having a conversation inside today, and you see all these different software products and all these things to plan, to plan the trucks, to plan your inventory, all these things. Well, none of that matters if it doesn't get to your customer.
Right.
So that last piece is always where it's this, okay, we got it all done. Let's get it out there. Well, if it never makes it to the destination, and there's all kinds of factors associated with, how much it really costs, right? So if something gets stolen in retail, is it 7x the value of the cargo? Is it 5x? You pick your number. It's a lot of money. So if you lose $1 million, you're actually losing $5 because you got to reproduce it. You lost sales.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Exactly right. And then
Because I think a lot of, I will say, just not to cut you off, but
no, it's okay.
I think that is something that's not talked about enough. People just think how much it was the check that the carrier or insurance company broker had a right to the shipper, but the downhill effect of that load getting getting stolen, you're losing so much revenue from other shipments that you could have made more profit on that. And then like your product is out for like dirt cheap selling, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly right. It
Like,
ruins your brand.
ruins your brand. Like, it's interesting, like with Nike, for instance, it's like I know people who buy things like whenever it's my girlfriends, they'll be like, oh, well, I bought this designer for this much cheaper. I'm like, that's cargo theft, and that's literally what I'm trying to avoid. Like, quit doing this, or it's a fake.
Yeah.
But I say all that just because I think that people will buy the less expensive version of the same thing, because why wouldn't you? A lot of people don't understand cargo theft, so your brand period gets disrupted by that.
That's the education piece that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
right? So people think of the dollars, as we talked about, oh, I lost $1 million. But there's not a number you can put on the brand impact, right? So if I can go buy, use the example of Nikes for $40 that are normally
Right.
150, or more importantly, if I can get new releases
Yeah.
before they're out,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, two things have happened. I've cut the supply chain and gotten them for myself or whoever else I want to sell them to. But more importantly, those people standing in line, for example, at Foot Locker or someplace else, their shoes aren't going to be there.
Right.
So now you've got a disgruntled customer. So the brand piece is huge, especially in things like apparel. But
Right.
yeah, and then if you take it to the pharma side of things, it is paramount, right?
Yeah.
So if a load of some sort of prescription drugs gets stolen,
Right,
and gets onto the black market, isn't maintained the right way, makes people
exactly.
sick or kills them, that's a real risk. So
Huge risk.
it's a huge risk. And I think I don't think, again, education was a beautiful word. The education that we have to keep trying to push out there is, look, yes, it costs more money to do what we're doing.
Totally.
1,000%. And we should get paid for it. It's what we do.
I agree.
And that's fair. But at the end of the day, what's really important is, if it doesn't make it, what's the cost to you?
Yeah.
And how many times can you afford that cost? And then you roll it back further. And then you mentioned insurance. Now, what's my insurance going to cost me?
Yeah.
Well, are all those things going to start to pile up on top of each other?
Because it does
to change the cost.
And honestly, as an industry, people complain about the cost of run, like, oh, we can't run a load for $1 a mile or whatever it is, because the cost of all the things, which a lot of it I feel like stemmed from cargo theft, making it where everything got more expensive. And so even as a consumer, whenever we're purchasing something, I mean, those shippers and manufacturers, they're not just eating the cargo theft loss. Like, they are tacking that onto the consumer. And so as an industry, I just want to basically bring up like how as an industry, it's so important to educate not only just within the industry, but outside. Like, you never know who knows who that could solve all the world's problems. You know what I mean? Like, talking about it outside is so important. So that's why having podcasts and talking about it, I love it. It's my favorite.
It's awesome. And it's funny. I've been doing this work for a bit, and people are always like, you're great at a dinner party because you have all these great stories to tell. And it's like, yeah, they're great stories, but they're sad in the same way, right? Like, why do we have to go through this? But I think the dollars is interesting, right? Cargo theft is causing the price to go up. Where would you, if you did more work on the front end, did more preventative measures, did more things, would that even out? Would it be less? I don't know the answer, but I think it's a $35 billion problem in the U.S. was recently reported. That's not a small problem.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's what did I read? It's bigger than the taxi and limo industry in total in the United States.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So.
Well, and the layered approach that you guys do, I think that's huge. And I'm big on not only just tech solving things, but also having humans be educated, and humans have to be involved. So like even the escort service that you guys have, I think is for a expensive product. I mean, if you think about like Fast and Furious, when they were like rating those, I always talk about that one, but on that one, let's say if you did have an escort, and especially one that's like nobody really knows about, they would have been able to call somebody out there and avoid that type of situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with your, I guess, like getting back to like the shipper side of things, on the shipper side, what are some like cases that you've seen where shippers have been very successful and turned around their theft where like they were here and then now they've put those measurements in place and those layers in place where they have really made a difference.
Yeah, there's several cases that I can speak specifically about. I don't want to mention names necessarily,
Right.
but we were working with a shipper at one point that was losing, a container of cargo every week.
Oh, wow.
750,000 to $1 million per container.
Wow.
And it was a huge struggle. And, we were able to kind of get in and lay out a program. So part of what we offer is we work with the security team to put a program together.
Yeah.
So we say, okay, let's put rules in place. Because I think it was yesterday somebody mentioned in the session, look, we got all these guys on the floor trying to book freight.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is put guardrails and procedures in place that allow you to say, okay, this freight reached this point as far as value.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things you have to put in place.
Right.
And then it has to be managed and monitored. So that's what we did with these folks. And literally they went from losing about 35 containers in a year to losing 0.
Wow.
So, and again, it wasn't crazy stuff. It was really simple.
Right.
So
a lot of times it is, and that's what's crazy.
But it's following the same process
and not ever deviating just because you have it's $4.59 on a Friday.
Exactly right. Exactly. Well, that's the other thing. Exactly right on that side. But also, I think the other problem that you run into sometimes is shippers get complacent. So they hire us to do our job. We're doing a great job for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they go, why are we paying these guys?
Right.
We don't have any problems.
Right.
And it's like, you're not having any problems because you're paying us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of creating that thought process and stickiness in their mind that says, oh, we got to keep this going. Because once they lose it, then you got to start all over again and rebuild it.
And also, whenever you are hit by a bad guy, you're on that you're on their list of like, oh, this is a target that we can actually get.
Yeah.
We could get like the reason why they were hit 35 times
is
because they're on the list. Yeah. We know their holes and they haven't fixed it. And until they do, we're going to keep, going in. And so I think also building a process, but then updating it as things do go through, because the bad guys are getting more and more clever on things. And I think where a lot of people go wrong and get stagnant at is they do not make advancements and they don't take the time to educate themselves on what is new trends out there. I know you and me see the new trends all the time and we go to conferences, talk about it and all that stuff as well. But if you're not implementing that into your process and updating, making adjustments, then you could be have a gaping hole because bad guys gotta be right 1%. I mean, we got 1% of the time, we gotta be right 100% of the time.
Exactly right. Well said. And it's absolutely true. But I think the other piece of that is, you're right. You have to have an iterative approach. It's not one way fixes everything.
Right.
Because you're going to fix it for a period of time, and then they're going to figure that out.
Right.
And then you need to fix it again. At some point, you could put a lock on the back of the trailer, and you'd be safe.
Right.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Now, there's people, climbing on trains and cutting out boxes. And, it's like bringing tools with them and shopping and finding the right things. It's really crazy to watch. And, everybody's seen some videos, stuff strewn all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's more organized than you think. And again, as soon as you feel like you've got a step ahead, you step back. In a lot of cases, a lot of these organized crime people that are doing this are replacing selling drugs to buy drugs, and they're stealing 100%. Cargo to buy drugs. Risk. It's less risk.
Yeah.
And, it
can be more profitable.
Exactly. And more profitable. And usually a fairly quick turnaround if they do it properly. So it's just everybody says, well, why don't they put their minds to good use? Well,
I know.
we're never going to get there. So
and why
we're always going to have bad actors. And exactly.
Yeah. Because which is
face easy money.
Yeah. It's easy money. And until we do get government help with making these times stricter, just because it's a nonviolent crime, property theft, like let's get away from that and realize how bad this is hurting. I like to think of it as this is for instance, 2020, transportation became essential. We were essential workers. Let's think about that as far as like national security goes. Like if something our whole world gets rocked with cargo theft and our whole supply chain shuts down, I mean, that's a national security measure. And so I think thinking about that in a different way as well is another reason why it's so important to have those layers in place to prevent this.
Yeah.
For me being a victim.
Yeah, I mean, at Vectura, we really stress the layers, and we stress prevention, right? So
Yeah.
we have a whole group of consultants on our team that'll come out and help you audit your warehouse, audit your processes, and say, okay, here's where your holes are, and also doing intelligence gathering to better understand where the next thing's going to
Yeah.
be. Okay, we've solved for the false BOL, we've solved for this. Okay, now what are they going to do?
Yeah.
It's going to be something.
Right.
I just don't know what it's going to be. I mean, we're fortunate in the U.S. There's not a ton of violent crime associated with. That's really lucky. In other countries, they're not as lucky, right? So hijackings and things, they don't happen that much anymore. They happen still, but not that much. And the value prop is really on how do we prevent, how do we educate?
Yeah.
And it's not just educating the shippers, it's educating drivers.
Yep.
Hey, when this happens, here's what you need to look out for. So we spend a lot of time out in the field giving you presentations to different organizations and saying, bring your carriers in, and we'll have a 4-hour conversation about security and how their drivers should act in certain situations, because that's where it starts. It goes back to your first point, which is educating people is the key. So many people don't know how rampant this is. It's becoming more. 2 years ago, people didn't even understand
And
what
wouldn't
cargo
talk
theft
about
was.
it if it happened to them.
No, absolutely.
Right.
The number of companies that had it and just paid out of pocket
Yeah.
so no one would know they had a problem was crazy. And
like my conspiracy on that is I don't think it has escalated, but the rate that we say it's escalated, I don't think it really did. I think that's just simply reportings.
I think exactly right. I think we're more educated. I think back then it was probably reported 50 because it's self-reporting, right? So it's 15% of the time, 20% of the time. Now I think there's so much focus.
And you usually don't get help with law enforcement for recovery. So how did you guys build your network with the law enforcement? Just literally boots on the ground meeting police? Wow.
So you hire the right people in your organization that know a fair amount of people, and then you build that network out from there. But it's a lot of going to all these conferences, whether it's Midwest Security Cargo, JJ's conference in Fort Worth, whether it's TAPA conferences that we go to, you just continue to build on that network, because there's, it's also a personality, right? So you have to have the personality of the guy that really wants to catch bad guys.
Yeah.
Because, it's very easy for, a law enforcement person to go, yeah, you know what? I really don't want to get up at 2 a.m. and go find out if that guy's stealing that truck. It takes a special person. So you really got to build your network, and you got to find those right people in all the right areas that can help you in those situations. And it's, anybody that says there's a single silver bullet, there isn't. But more importantly, there's going to be a robbery at some point in Wyoming. I probably don't have great law enforcement coverage in Wyoming. Sadly, we'll work on that. But I mean, we try to get everywhere. But I think, being honest with people is the other part that we really focus on. Look, at some point during our relationship as software provider and customer, we're going to have a problem.
Right.
We maintain the personality with people. I know you had Jessica on recently, and Jessica and I had a real heart to heart, and I said, look, if you have a problem, you lose something, and we're responsible for it, I'll be in your office the next day.
Yeah.
And I'll be there to face the music, figure out how to help, and solve, and figure out how to solve the problem going forward. But I think that's what's missing. A lot of times when a problem happens, people will kind of run away or retreat.
Oh my gosh, yes.
As opposed to go, okay, that's on us. Let's figure out how to fix the problem.
Right. And number one, if the software company or anything to do with cargo theft, if they aren't ones that are like that, A, not right company to work for.
Exactly
but
right.
B, as a consumer, being shipper, broker, carrier, as a consumer, if you do have something that does happen to you, not looking in the mirror and being like, what was wrong with my process, but also having the conversation. Like, I love it when my customers come up to me and tell me, hey, this happened to me. This is what happened. Like, you dig into your piece. Was it you? Was it me? Let's both dig in together. Like, I'm all ears for that. But if you're just jumping from platform to platform or doing this and that because you didn't take a look at yourself and see your process, because like I preach this all the time. Tech can only go so far. Human element has to be there as well. So how do you make sure that happens each and every time? Yeah.
It's really now the consistency is hard, right?
Yes, very hard.
And again, there are humans involved, so there's going to be mistakes. It's like there's going to be truck crashes.
Right.
There's going to be all those things, right? So, but I think that the key for is to just, again, you have to be vulnerable at some level in a conversation with people to admit there could be a problem.
Right.
And I think then you have to be vulnerable to say, okay, what's on me? And if it's not, okay, it turns out, okay, they completely screwed the process up. Okay, well, that just still doesn't relieve me from responsibility.
Right.
That means, okay, how do I help you follow your process better?
Yeah.
Because that's what failed.
Can I help
And
automate
how do,
something? Or
yeah, how do I make our software help you follow the process?
Right.
Whatever I can do to help, that's what we're, that's why we build partnerships,
Yeah.
with people like Verified Carrier, with, uh, people like, Scott Cornell, who's, just well known in the industry and just has a lot to offer.
Love Scott.
Well, he's got good ideas, right?
Great
so
ideas.
so it's
He's
like,
brilliant.
why do I have to come up with everything, or why does the company have to come up with everything? I got really smart people I can talk to and go, hey, we're worried about this. Well, hey, 25 years ago, I did this. Oh, crap. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like pulling back the old playbooks too. I think a lot of people
sometimes you have to.
Yeah. Because I mean, these guys are doing things strategically just as much as we are. Obviously, they're on a grander level, and I think having, like, for instance, whenever the breakdown in the human process, like you said, maybe we can automate stuff within tech, but then maybe it's where I need to educate the dock workers on something.
Absolutely.
And make them be almost more like, okay, here's like a fun story. I have a shipper friend who we were working together. I'm like, how can we help? You guys have a better process. And one of the things that basically we did was show a bunch of videos, like did like a thing or just showed a ton of videos on the scale of cargo theft and broke that down and made it almost like an investigative piece. Like, hey, let's all become detectives out on the dock. Like, let's play almost like playing detective.
Yeah.
And also they incentivized their dock workers. So if they did catch something, they were able to, I don't even know what the incentive was, but they incentivized them. So it was like fun to do. I think building that culture will then keep your processes and the tech that you do invest in actually be used.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I think the biggest problem that you have is, number one, getting stagnant, but number two, trying to, it's like cargo security escorts.
Yeah.
They went for a period.
Okay, but yeah, we're just talking like building the culture in a shipper, from like the dock workers to everything. And I'm sorry, you were just saying.
I was just saying, essentially, the idea of cargo escorts kind of went out of vogue for a period of time and has come back in strength. And I think a lot of it has to do with the value of cargo that's being moved. When you start to move these AI servers, which are going all over the place because this boom, right? And the expense level and all the other things associated with them, on top of, you mentioned something earlier, national security. These are, we don't want these to go to Russia or China so they can deconstruct the server and figure out how we're doing it so well, or whatever the case may be. We want to keep that AI lead as something the United States can own. So, it's those are the kind of things that it's like that extra layer of protection on top of everything else. Great. I mean, I can see a future where we're going to use drones on a regular basis once they're in a better position to do that.
Right.
We're talking to some vendors that have cameras that you can put in the truck that are motion activated. They open the doors and all of a sudden our operations center can talk to the thief as they're walking in.
Oh, wow.
Say, I can see your face. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And potentially let them go off. So there's companies trying, right, to build
really
new
cool.
things. So and our goal is, how do we utilize the best of all those things to make our software better and our performance better, and not trying to get bogged down, and this is the only way it can work. I met with a guy at Tapa, and he's got a fog solution. So it'll fog the back of the cab.
I've seen that.
And I'm like, holy cow. And
like it's almost like minutes, it's almost like a duh. And then they have time to respond and catch the guy because they're stuck in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
so cool how people come up with different solutions for that. But what's great too is then like why I think it's so important to come to conferences and talk about it, especially like the CargoNet one. That was amazing. Tapas is really good. Like any of the ones that really specialize in this is because you don't know what is out there.
No, and I think it's a much safer environment for people like that. You know, who would have thought of putting a fog machine in the back of
Right?
a trailer? Well, it started because they did it at a jewelry store and it was really effective.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we can extend this and here's how
Hmm.
it's going to work. So for us, I want to take advantage of as many smart people as I can with my
Yeah.
solution, right? I want to be the carrier of the data and the carrier of the response, but how I get that and how the information comes to me, let's use as many minds as we possibly can to solve
Hmm.
that problem.
Which is cool.
Because there's not one answer, right? There's not. There just
There's
isn't.
not.
Hey, you bypass this. Okay, we've got this. You
Mm.
bypass this. You got this. It's the layered approach we've talked about throughout.
Right. I know. Yeah. It's interesting. I love that you guys teach the layered approach part, and then making it where, like, once you see success in one piece of it, knowing you can kind of add on more,
Exactly right.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think once you kind of can trust a product or a solution and being like, okay, well, this changed this whole thing, and if I change and if I add this on and that on, so it's very cool that you guys do that, and I love the educational pieces that you guys do too. It's huge.
Yeah, and I think the kind of another piece is that whole ability to look at a route, and we take in, for example, CargoNet's data into our platform. So
Right.
we can pick hotspots where crimes happen, and we can say, okay, you know what? You really don't want to drive through Memphis. We're going to take you around Memphis,
Yeah.
for example. Not that that would be a big surprise to anybody that they want to be taken around Memphis. But anyway, so you have that ability to
Yeah.
manage that route, and then we can tell if you're going off that route significantly or what and we can correct that action as well. Like, hey, we told you not to go this way. Now you're going this way. What are you doing?
Right.
We're able to interdict and talk to that driver about his behavior and try to figure out how to correct it on the fly. So I think the timeliness of information is the key to that whole piece as well.
Yeah.
Having that information as quickly as possible and understanding how to utilize it. But I think the industry as a whole has gotten smarter. I think it's much more aware. We've got a long way to go.
Right.
But we have customers really interested that were never interested before.
Yeah.
Bigger companies that, are 3PLs, NVOCCs, all the different varieties of logistics companies that you would think, oh, they've got this all buttoned up and understand. They don't.
No.
And they don't have the capacity to really do it.
And even if they did today, they probably won't tomorrow.
Exactly right. They don't
Because
have
you really only see, and that's something that, like, especially in the shipping world, like, you only see your freight. You don't really
Yes.
know what's happening in a broad scheme. As a broker, I like it when brokers educate shippers on this matter, because as a broker, you're seeing multiple different types of customers, different
Yeah.
quantities. You're seeing things on a much broader level, and I think that's where the disconnect has happened, where a broker will be like, oh, well, this got stolen and it was the shipper's fault for not doing this or not checking that, or so forth. And so I think the biggest piece on that is having it, we have a relationship with our brokers and shippers, and making it where what we're seeing on our side, we're able to educate and keep up to date. Yeah. Got
No, it's correct. And I think things like the BOLO alerts and everything else that you get, not that they're interesting and important, but I think this is the awareness, right? We
Yeah.
talked about this earlier. Um I can't remember whether it was 2 weeks ago. I felt like I got 15 BOLO alerts in
Yeah.
1 week. That's just crazy to think about. But I mean, if you think about the number of trucks on the roads every day, I guess it isn't too crazy. But yeah, it's that whole piece of awareness, intellect, and intelligence is so important to kind of keep in front of mind with people, as opposed to, it's been a good couple of months.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's a bad couple of months, and now that whole good couple of months is wasted. So
Right.
I think it's really important to stay on top of this stuff. Like these conversations are super important to, hey, I don't know everything.
Right.
So if there's some idea you have that you want to share with me, happily share it. We'll figure out how to make it work and if it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think the other critical piece is people. I think you can have the best software in the world. You can have all the things. At some point, you're going to have people
Yeah.
intervene in the process. Those people have to continue to educate themselves,
Right.
continue to be supported in the right ways to make them successful. So
Yeah.
that's really important to me
Totally.
as a runner of a business, where I'm like, hey, keeping these people in front and center of education, letting them understand, bringing them to conferences,
Right.
helping them learn
Yeah.
and get educated is really important, because you're only as strong as your weakest link.
exactly.
So that's the important thing.
Well, that's also building a culture of
Yes.
like, this is important. This is very important in our organization. And I don't know if this is recorded or not, but just like the part with the dock worker, like watching the film and stuff like that, it's making it where it's like fun, and then like let's make it fun, and like you get incentives for doing the right thing and catching the bad guy or whatever. Like I think we focus too much on, and this is as a human race, we focus heavily on like, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, and we don't do the whole, just celebrating what you did right. And I think that's where we can, as an organization, if you're struggling with that, where you can't get your dock workers to pay attention to small details, well, that's a culture problem.
Yeah.
And so shifting that by making it be a positive thing and exciting to catch the bad guy.
Yeah. Or, right.
Hey,
we had, to your point, we had 65 shipments this week that were high value. We did everything right. Okay, we're buying everybody pizza.
Yeah.
Simple stuff like that goes a long way. And then it gets competitive amongst the world. Hey, I'm going to do it better than you, faster than you, all these things associated with it. At my core, I believe in people, and I believe people are good at their heart until they prove me wrong. But I think a lot of times, to your point, we focus on, Joe, darn it, you didn't pick that box quick enough and it didn't get on the truck and blah, 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 as opposed to the 99 things they did right and the one thing they did wrong.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean there shouldn't be a correction or something mentioned, but you also have to say, hey, it's a great week. Here's the one thing that we saw that we can improve on, and we're going to work on that metric next week. But I also think it's creating metrics with those folks as well.
Oh,
so
interesting.
they have goals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many folks do that. So how do you put that together in a way that says, hey, we're going to have a safe loading goal or a correct loading goal for the dock this week.
Yeah.
And we've got 1,000 shipments coming through. We want at least 975 without.
All right.
Let's finish.
Why don't you finish this up? Sorry about that. Okay. So how can everybody reach out to your company and you learn all the things?
Well, reach out to us on govectura.com. That's our website. And there's a form to fill out if you'd like to hear more information about us, and link into me. There's very few Bart Schulmans in the world, so I'm pretty easy to find. But yeah, any way you'd like to contact us, we'd be happy to talk. Happy to give you my cell phone number, whatever you need. So
love it.
Great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for coming on it.